Now you know your dad is jerking off.
I don't know that.
I mean, yes.
No. No.
You know your dad knows what current porn things are.
I mean, that's the bit that I don't like.
yeah, which
I mean, all of it I don't like.
Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the doctor himself.
Motherfucker.
Sometimes I love when I can trap you at something that'll be a good cold open.
Fuck. And I know it's happening as it's, but
your radio brain
But
can't
I'm
stop.
I'm in such just like, it's content baby
Not-
mode that it's like, I'm not going to not say something.
Yeah. This is the conversation you and I were just having, which is like, it bleeds into our personal lives, and it's hard.
It's a problem.
It is.
The restraint I show day to day at work
The harder
is
part.
crazy.
You know what? It's actually work is definitely challenging, but you know what's harder is actually the gray areas where it's like it's not necessarily.
It's like work after work drinks.
Yes.
Be like, how much of the real me can come out here?
Or like people that you don't really know, but you're technically in a social setting, and you're like,
Yeah.
and people are like even making jokes, but you're like, these are like hanging out with normal people.
But what
jokes.
kind of jokes?
This is what I mean.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
and I've definitely had so many situations where I test the water with something that's a little bit too spicy.
I mean, also, let's just read between the lines here. You saying test the water with something a little bit too spicy means you dropped an atomic bomb in the water.
I've
You're like,
definitely.
oh, was that a little bit too spicy
Yeah.
for you?
I've definitely gone too far with people that couldn't hang.
Of course you have.
Yeah.
You do that here.
I do that around comedy people.
You do that with me.
Yeah.
I 100% could see that.
What's funny right now is that I'm doing stuff in the political sphere with one of the people is a comedian.
Yes.
And so
That must be tough, too.
it is so tough because we have these like weekly meetings.
Right.
And it's like, my brain is just like, but that's a comedy person. And I'm like, I know, but we're trying to be a professional
Yeah.
person right now.
Yeah, so when you pitch a cum tax,
Yeah. This isn't challenge month, all right? It's not. Don't piss.
yeah, come and don't piss.
Come and don't-
Jizz and
Don't piss. That's it. Or you'll have to pay the jizz tax.
Jizz and don't piss.
It's the JST.
Listen, you've got to fucking listen to Justin Trudeau.
Stupid Trudeau.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, if you want to learn more about Jizz and Don't Piss, go subscribe to the Patreon.
And if you want to listen to this podcast, well, each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
That sounds about right.
Look, we got to blow off some steam here.
Yeah.
we were good boys over on
We
Ghostfacers.
just recorded a Ghostfacers with a guest, and we were very good boys. So now we have to stray as far from God as possible.
Speaking of,
Oh, fuck. Damn
did you
it.
not do that on purpose?
He's here. The prayer was coming from within the house.
I hath risen.
Oh, hell yeah. Jizz and Don't Piss.
I like it if you had like a cat god, it could be I has risen.
That's good.
That's right.
That's a good shirt.
Yeah, a little cat Jesus.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I like I has
Yeah.
risen.
Yeah. Or it could be like a cat with a big dick. It could be
What? Jesus Christ!
I has jizzed.
What? Why would that?
I can has jizzed.
Oh, the cat wants cum?
Well, but it's I can has cheeseburger.
Yeah, I know.
I can
but-
has jizzburger.
no! Just a.
Wait, hang on. Pull up Canva. Let's design a shirt.
No, I would rather not.
Yeah, let's do it.
Have you
In
seen
Canva.
To add insult to injury.
Yeah. Not only is this a cursed shirt, but we made it in
The
Canva.
Fucking subpart. But why don't we have fucking AI make it for us then
No,
in Canva?
No, AI. We both know AI can't do jokes, let alone dirty jokes.
Trust me, I sent you that thing the other day that I made.
Oh yeah.
Let's just say that the tagline was radical.
Yeah, I didn't love it.
Yeah. Let's just say it was 9/11, and I was inspired.
Like many times when you text me, my response was just "Good Lord."
I mean, that is very often your response.
It's my response on the show a lot too.
That's true. But also, have you yet to become like more discerning about when you look at your phone at work when I text you?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, I do have it set up that I have to unlock it for the text to show.
But still,
the thing that actually worries me more is like sometimes in the morning, we're get the kid ready for school. We have breakfast and then we got a little bit of time before we got to get out the door. My kid will be like, "Can we watch a Transformers or something?" And I go and like find a clip or something. And I'm worried that one day when she can read, you're going to text me while we're watching a fun clip. And I'm going to have to explain to her why Uncle Richard's a bad man.
You can set those up to not show you the images.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck. Because I also think about that sometimes where it's like, I want to show my wife something, but I don't want her to see our texts.
No. They come up as, I mean, I know, and you're right. You can set those up to also come
truly
up
almost happened one time.
Yes, you can set those up so that they just say nothing.
Sure. Well,
not that there would be anything to see.
Yeah, because there's nothing.
Nothing at all.
I'll set it up so I say nothing. Nothing?
It's like, she still saw it.
Nothing?
It wasn't me.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Can you take me higher? Power 2.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? I was like, let's do... I knew we had done something like this in the past, but it's been a while since we've talked about God in DC and like angelic powers.
It's about time to get back to what this podcast is really about.
I really wanted
spreading the good message.
Yeah, I want us to get back to like a Christian message.
Yeah. What the true? Yeah, I'm tired of hitting explicit so often on the podcast at the bottom.
Yeah, no. It's time for us to be good boys again.
Yeah,
like we have been for the last 9 minutes.
Yeah.
But I had to look back. Do you know when Higher Power 1 came out?
Is it below 100?
Yes.
50? Below?
Mm-hmm.
40?
Mm-hmm.
Like 30?
Mm-hmm.
20?
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the first 10, is it?
It is.
Fucking what?
Issue number 7.
Well, then, so we've never done a Higher Power episode then.
Because that doesn't exist.
Yeah, that doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, we've never had a proper crack at it.
Yeah. Yeah, we were never having a going against the current episode.
Yeah.
Just fighting to get content out. Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
But we episode 80, a classic one of ours, we talked about like demons and hell and stuff. That's where Evil Alfred comes from. It's from that episode.
Jesus Christ, is that really?
That is true. That is the first appearance of Evil Alfred.
Was it? Did this? Us doing this episode, did this come from people on Discord asking about when did that start?
No, but that's just an interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, people are asking when the first appearance of Cajun Wolverine was. That's got to be somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah,
I think for episodes probably.
God, we've been good since the beginning.
Oh yeah. Remember when we just kept doing stupid fucking ads?
God, I remember being married and not really doing anything and having a lot of energy and time.
Like, oh yeah, no, Matthew McConaughey for Great Lakes Grooming.
Great Lakes away.
Great Lakes, maybe our greatest creation. But yeah, we haven't done an episode explicitly about, we've talked about some of these ideas, obviously.
Sure, yeah.
But we haven't done an episode like this since 2017.
That's upsetting.
So now it's 2024.
And I'm a 2020 whore.
The world has changed. Yeah, Jesus. Can we record with your legs down?
No, thank you.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've got a proposition. So,
or as I like to call it, a proposition.
Nice. Fuck. That's good.
Ladies.
That's fucking good.
I'm pretty good. No, I'm not. I fucking knew it as soon as I
Why don't you
said
sing
it.
Carry On My Wayward Son?
No, I can't fucking do it. I'm not good.
All right, well, we're talking about God, baby.
Yeah, we're talking about G-O-D. We're
Let's-
talking about all the angels up in heaven that work for him.
Wow, where's this fucking...
I better hope that I can bring that skill to the Patreon.
Yeah, let's fucking see what happens when we even just go to Discord.
Oh, fuck. Shit.
I did like on the Discord the other day, people were like, I like that he does that, whether it's fake or real. And I was like, no, it's real.
It's definitely real.
He's real. And they're
I
like,
also did it when I recorded an episode by myself.
that's what they also said. Which I was like, that's fucking hilarious. Let's go to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram. Take some questions and answer them.
First question comes from Martian Crisis, who asks, how did John Ostrander's training as a Catholic priest influence his Spectre run? And did it inform any of his other work?
Fuck.
You ask him.
That's just my answer.
I don't know. Fucking ask him.
Was my name John Ostrander? No, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I think the thing with the Spectre is interesting because that is a golden age character.
Oh, wow.
The Spectre was in the Justice Society.
Crazy.
That character's been around for a very long time. But because it was the golden age, because, like, you know, like, in a comic in the 40s, you can't be like, and I have all the powers of God.
Sure, yeah.
Even if he heard the voice, right?
Yeah.
Like he did or whatever.
Wasn't even the presence at that
He'd
point.
have some power, but it was only power directed at a certain like, there were all these sort of restrictions on it, you know? It's funny to take a character like that, and then over time, they become like part of the fabric of the cosmology.
Yeah.
You know, what does the DC universe include? Planets, suns, you know, the Speed Force, the Spectre. Like, he's part of the fabric, you know, like, and that's interesting from just being like a ghost in a green cape.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is the most interesting development over time for the Spectre, and the Ostrander stuff is part of this, is really hammering into the idea of, like, how literal do we take God?
Sure.
Scripture, gospel. You know, when we write things like the Spectre, he'll quote verse, or he'll deliver these very, like, righteous biblical kind of punishments or something like that, you know. But you sort of, DC is interesting because, like, Jesus exists in DC. We know that because the Spear of Destiny exists.
Oh, sure.
And I think also we talk about Jesus in some book in Sandman or some shit like that. You know, like, that stuff does exist. We'll talk about it more in the episode, but, like, the nature of God, though, is still a little bit like, he goes like, oh yeah, the Bible, but, like, I don't know, maybe also new gods, or, like, you know, like,
sure.
the way they treat God is like a little amorphous in DC. So for the Spectre, what I think makes that interesting is, like, that is a character that is, like, biblical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is really rooted in a specifically a, like, Christian kind of version of the Bible, in that he's not quoting a ton of the Quran or anything like that. But it's interesting to take a character that's, like, really tied into, like, what is sin, what is burn, this is righteous, this is not, just as Matthew did when blah blah blah. Sure. Like, to do those things, and then the other half of that equation, which is, like, the guy he takes orders from, mm-hmm. is kind of like, I don't know, but sometimes I'm also, like, kind of meta, or, like,
yeah,
it's not as rigid in, like, the religious way. But what I love in the Spectre is the religious iconography and stuff like that. I think interesting Spectre runs deal. I like it in the, like, I'm not religious in any way, but I like it in the way that I like visiting churches in other countries.
The lore.
You know, like, I like the
theatrics,
but I also like the ornamentation.
Yeah.
I like the history.
Yeah.
I like the ritual of those things. And like ritual in superhero stuff, we have that all the time. And it can be really simple, like Billy says Shazam, or, you know, Etrigan says his poem, or, you know, insert thing. But like ritual is like baked into superhero stuff. So then when you add this like accidental literary element to have this thing that's like steeped in these, you know, thousands of years of ritual and text and verse and things like that. That's the shit I like. Now, how much of that is Ostrander specifically? Great question. Not really sure.
Sure.
I think, you know, if you want to say, like, is Ostrander's background influences other work, I would look to Suicide Squad. Specifically the stuff about, like, contemplating whether it's worth living. You know, a character like Count Vertigo or something like that. I'd be, you know, you could look at that and have a look at, like, what is Ostrander's opinion there or whatever. I don't have a great answer for this question. Like, I don't know Ostrander's mind. But, yeah, I mean, the stuff to me that makes the Spectre most interesting, especially in the modern age, is playing with the rigidity of religion versus usually the host is like, but what if I don't want to do that? You know, Hal's like that. Crispus Allen is like that. Even Jim Corrigan in Gotham by Midnight, you know, that twist, that reveal that he's the one picking the targets, that it's not God. Then you kind of go like, so all of like, he is the power of God's vengeance, but he's actually like untethered even from those other things. That's interesting too. But yeah, I mean, the thing that I love in the Spectre is him like quoting some fucking Bible verse and then turning a guy into a slowly melting candle. Like, you know, like there's something like deeply satisfying about that in the way that I like Constantine and other kind of religious adjacent
Well, I mean,
characters, you know?
baseline, like Christian religion is like, as a North American, like the first supernatural lore you really get exposed to, whether you're from a religious family or not. Like, I am from not a religious family whatsoever, and yet, I mean, you can't. It's like when the fucking like the Backstreet Boys came out. Like, you whether you or not you watched you bought the CDs or watched the music videos, it was just part of the zeitgeist.
I'll be even more specific. I said Christian. The Spectre is Catholic.
Sure, but isn't Catholicism a Christian religion?
It is,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but I think if you read the Spectre, he is
Sure.
What is
Catholicism is a little bit more like
from
dramatic
themes to you know, to actual scripture, to like what counts as sin or what doesn't, to the iconography of churches and that. Like the Spectre and Phantom Stranger and that, like I would say even the Christianity of DC is Catholic.
Sure.
I would make that argument. I'm sure someone can point to something that is like more Baptist or more whatever, but like, but I think truly when we're really looking, especially Constantine and shit like that, we're talking about Catholicism.
Well, and I think that, I mean,
you know, that's the one.
It's the one that I think has changed, like of all of the Christian sort of sects. That is the one that has like still feels so gothic and like.
Well, yeah, and you know, the other ones tend to splinter off from it. So maybe it feels like it's got like a richer lore or something like that.
And I think that's really what it is,
you
right?
know, and those all might just be the why of it, but like definitively, these characters are not just Christian, they're Catholic, I would say.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes to us from JVideo13, who asks, who would win in a fight, Perpetua or God?
Okay. You're asking this as like a fun little who would win question.
Yeah.
But you're opening up a fucking can of worms.
Oh,
here.
really? How's that?
So, Perpetua. So let's start with who is Perpetua. Mm-hmm. So in the overvoid, the nothingness before the omniverse.
Yeah.
These things called the hands go out and create multiverses. And their job is to make a multiverse, and then they sort of sublimate back into the source. Mm-hmm. So the source kind of creates the source, which is like the energy of life and creation, makes the hands make multiverses, and then their power sublimates back into the source. One of those goes rogue, corrupts a multiverse, makes it dangerous and violent and feeding on this sort of energy of like crisis and stuff like that. That's Perpetua.
Is that
making
part of
the DC multiverse.
Is this like the death metal?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she tries to use it to make a weapon against the source, against the other hands, against the Overvoid and stuff like that. And then her sons, the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and the World Forger rebel against her and trap her in the Source Wall, and then death metal, all these things happen, and we have Perpetua. But she is cosmic beyond the Monitors.
Wow.
When they fight Perpetua, they're fighting a being from beyond the multiverse that created the multiverse.
Yeah.
In death metal, we do see some other things that come from the Overvoid. We meet the Chronicler in one issue, and we meet some of the hands of the Source. And a hand is a potent image in DC. You know, we talk about like Krona going back to see the moment of creation of the universe, and that's what makes the multiverse, you know, back in the first Crisis.
Totally.
There's a hand at the bottom of creation. That's the idea, right? Is that the hand of the Source? Is that whatever? So those hands, they talk to Wonder Woman at the end of death metal. So we see these beings. They exist in this very, like, impossibly large scale. So the question remains, is God the source? There are a couple of ways to see this. I think canonically, the source is an aspect of the presence, meaning that God is God in DC.
Oh, okay.
And the source is one way it manifests. The presence is another. The voice, you know, fine, call me like your capital G God, call me Yahweh, call me
sure,
like,
yeah.
but like I'm all of it.
Yeah.
So in DC, God is God. He's just misinterpreted by a bunch of people. That's one way of seeing it. And canonically, I think is sometimes the explanation that's given. Because a different aspect of the presence would be, or the presence is also an aspect, but another like aspect of God would be the mother entity. From Young Animal, from Bug, The Adventures of Forager, the mother entity is a version of the source that mother boxes draw their life from. You know, New God kind of stuff. Right. All this kind of stuff. The other version that is maybe less canonical, more a headcanon thing, and absolutely the influence of that like Bible scholar that I follow on TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Is that I think for me, I'm starting to read it more like the presence is an aspect of the source.
Okay.
That the source is, which in a way, these are the same idea. If you're going to say that like you're actually this big unknowable thing and the knowable version of you is like capital G God or whatever, then you're already saying capital G God can't be God because that's a fraction of the idea.
That's like saying my finger is me.
You know, like there's
there's
it's a sort of Hindu thing too, that like the real God is unknowable, but there's a version that we can comprehend, and it's a lesser version. So for me, they're almost the same idea, but I think the way I read it now is that the source is just is.
Yeah.
You know, there's the great darkness and there is the light. Those two things. For me, the presence is an aspect in the way that like the source is an aspect, in the way that the hands are aspects, in the way that, you know, whatever. We'll get into it later in the episode. Canonically, explicitly, there are some things that say otherwise. But for me, that's my reading of it, is that the source is a sort of like energy. And to me, the presence, as in like, I'm God, I'm giving you a mission, Spectre, is like a small aspect of that.
Sure.
But I think if explicitly, it's the other way around. It's that the presence, the blah, 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 are all, the source are all aspects of, call him God, but.
Sure.
Yeah. I think I'm saying the same thing as what the comic is saying, but I think the comic's making the mistake of saying it's God. It's all God. And I'm saying God's it.
Sure, yeah.
which
yeah.
is, potato, potato. But like, I think there's a semantic distinction, and maybe that's me trying to be like, we shouldn't make the entire DC multiverse Judeo-Christian.
Sure.
But like,
Yeah, but that's like telling the like microbes inside my gut that like I exist, and it's like they're inside me. It has no fucking concept of me as a.
and we have no concept of it.
Yeah.
It would be like the microbes inside you interacting with the cells in your stomach.
Yes.
And your cells are like, "Oh, I'm Richard,"
Yeah, and they're like,
"Okay," but then you're like, "I'm Richard," and they
Yeah.
go, "But what about the cells?" They go like, "He's Richard." Be like, "Do you know what he knows?" You're like, "Not really."
yeah, no,
Like when we talk about refractions in the multiverse,
it's like
and,
yeah,
how does
it's a
Dark
part
Side-
of me, but it's not.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think
yeah.
about it. So, like I say, potato, potato. But the ultimate answer to that is that Perpetua loses.
Totally, yes, of course.
If we're talking about small aspect, yeah, I guess Perpetua could win. But if that's just a portion of the power of the creator,
Yes.
or the creative energy or whatever,
Yeah.
Perpetua loses.
Yeah, of course.
That's it. She was scared of the rest of the source, of the hands of creation and stuff like that. That's why she made her multiverse a weapon. So she loses.
Yeah. Next question. Lock the door if you're asking a question.
Oh, Ben Forrest Stewart.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Who asks, has there been a story where a character thought they could beat God and then got handed an embarrassing loss? So now we're saying, what if Perpetua, has there been anybody who tried?
Oh, to like take on God?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, or at least to take on what he stands for. Like when we talk about that, I think it's the Morrison run of JLA, where like it's literal like an angel revolt.
Sure.
That shit, that's an assault on the idea of God.
Yeah.
It's maybe not a direct assault on the presence, but it's like, we're going to take the seat of heaven. We're going to whatever. Lucifer talks about that shit sometimes. Like those things come up. It's funny when we get into the sci-fi cosmic stuff, there's a version of it that feels like we shy away from the religious cosmic stuff. The weird intersection is something like Crisis, like the first Crisis, where the Spectre fights the Anti-Monitor.
Yes.
A thing that we recreated in the Arrowverse Crisis.
Yeah,
and that is the matchup.
Wild.
In a weird way, but that's still not God.
No.
Like, again, because ultimately we start conflating God and the source. The only thing I think that could reasonably actually take it on is maybe the Great Darkness. But
Sure.
the Great Darkness doesn't really have an interest in that. It just wants to sleep. Like we saw that in Swamp Thing 50 when Zatara dies and they're fighting the Great Darkness and trying to hold it back during the first Crisis. We see it in Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, where you think the Great Darkness is controlling Pariah, and then you learn it's actually the other way around. All the Great Darkness wants is to fucking sleep. So I think maybe the only thing that could actually be a true assault on the light is that.
Wow.
So I think anything else, no matter what the setup of the story, and I think you see this in stories, they go like, oh, the demons are going to win and blah, blah, blah. If you cut to the presence, he'd be like, things will turn out, I bet. Like,
sure.
it's that classic fucking thing in all sorts of like religiously coded, be like, or maybe maybe this is the push you needed to be a real hero. Like, God is so fucking coy.
Yes.
It's infuriating.
Yep.
It's like, just tell me. But then you wouldn't know. It's like, all right, man. Fuck.
But I'm not the president right now.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I've got concepts of a plan.
Yeah, make heaven great. Have you made the world? It's like, I got concepts of a world.
Yeah. It's Perpetua. That's funny. Next question from Sophia E15, who asks, what characters in the DC universe have gone up against one of these gods and bested them? I'm assuming this is from a photo that you posted.
Oh, right. So like I posted like Phantom Stranger and the Spectre.
So now we talked about an embarrassing loss. Maybe not the presence or God itself, but a god.
So there are creatures that have like parts of the power of God.
Sure, yeah.
You know, the Spectre is the spirit of God's vengeance. A great example of the Spectre. I mean, listen, we've talked about the Spectre being hostless. Yes. And the damage he can cause. But that's even less of a loss thing and more like he really needs a host. You know,
I can fill him with my host.
Easy. Give him my body of Christ.
Yeah.
A bowl of crackers is what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
A good example of the Spectre just fully losing is Final Crisis Revelations. So it's a tie-in series during the events of Final Crisis, in which the cult of Cain, which is the extension from the religion of crime, they follow the crime Bible.
Of course.
They decide that Vandal Savage must be Cain of Cain and Abel.
Okay.
And they use the Spear of Destiny to basically like summon the spirit of Cain in Vandal Savage. And so he becomes Cain. And with the Spear of Destiny, he separates Crispus Allen's soul from the Spectre and makes the Spectre his slave. Like, fully takes control of that. Like, it's this whole thing about the Spectre is the one that punished him on behalf of God, right? Gave him the mark of Cain and shit like that. So this is his vengeance against the Spectre. And then, you know, the Question and Huntress and this being called the Radiant, which is the spirit of God's mercy. They're all involved in this story. And obviously, they eventually beat Cain and stuff like that. But they tie the idea of, like, Cain and the Spear of Destiny and revenge on God into, and the idea of Revelations, like the end of days, they tie it to anti-life and what's happening with Darkseid and shit like that. That all of these things are the end of the world. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty definitive loss for the Phantom Stranger, or for the Spectre.
Yeah.
Phantom Stranger kind of gets his ass handed to him a lot.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's enormously powerful. But when he could use his powers is really amorphous, and he seldom can use them directly to intervene in events. He can sometimes use them directly personally, but not in service of a certain thing.
Sure.
Sometimes he just has to be like, I don't know, pick a door. Like, he's got to be, God's like, I like when I play coy, maybe you should do that. Like, there's like that element to him.
Yeah, he's God's coyness.
Yeah, the spirit of God's coyness. The Phantom Stranger is God's hard to get nature.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I want to choose.
Whatever makes you happy.
But the Phantom Stranger gets his ass beat a bunch because of that, because sometimes he can't use his power. Or sometimes someone finds some sort of mystic relic. Because the Spectre is a portion of the power of God then bound to a human soul. The Phantom Stranger was human.
Yeah.
And is punished with his enormous power.
Yes.
You know, like, so it's a little different. He gets his ass beat a bunch. The Question in the New 52 fucking stabs him with the Spirit Destiny. We love the Spirit Destiny in DC.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the religious figures.
Oh, yeah. The Spectre beats his ass sometimes. Like, that happens in Day of Vengeance.
Yeah.
You know, when the Spectre has no host. First three characters he goes to take off the table are Madame Xanadu, Dr. Fate, and Phantom Stranger. You know, he turns him into like a fucking mouse or some shit like that. So he gets beat, I would say, more often.
Which version of God is the Monopoly man from like Madeline?
That's the Presence.
Oh, okay.
But so is the little Scotty dog from the New 52.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that's also the Presence. So is the voice that the Spectre hears. That's the Presence.
Okay.
Presence takes on many forms.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, all of those things are beatable. And I would make the argument that the Presence as an entity is also beatable, because he has to, again, It's the stomach cell argument,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
There is a version of even a character that powerful losing in a universe.
Sure.
But can you destroy the source of all things?
Yeah. Which is then therefore destroying everything.
You know what I mean? No, you can't. But that's kind of where we always will circle back to with this kind of question.
Yeah. Okay. Next question comes from Max Nopo, who asks, is it still canon that the Phantom Stranger is Judas Iscariot? And his necklace is the 30 pieces of silver.
So that was a New 52 thing.
Yeah.
Pre-New 52, Phantom Stranger, it's not that they never said his origin. It's that they gave him a bunch.
Sure.
Not in the Joker way of like, I'll never tell,
Sure.
but like just in that like, we truly don't know. It could be any of this.
Yeah.
In one, he's the last survivor of a previous universe.
Whoa.
In one, he's not Judas,
I love that.
but while Jesus is crucified, he basically goes up and like punches him in the wound, he's the one that like he was like, I want to stab him too, and he does some
That's
shit like that, like
fucking hilarious.
and he gets punished for it. And there's a few different versions, and then in the New 52, they were like, let's take the Jesus thing and make it even more specific. Let's make him Judas, because they had this whole Trinity of sin idea, the worst sinners of all time, and one is Pandora, and then Phantom Stranger was Judas.
Sure.
That was what they were going for. And yeah, so then instead of just being an amulet, what he wore was like 30 pieces of silver that Judas gets paid to betray Christ. I would say odds are that's not canon anymore.
Okay.
Not that nothing from the New 52 is, but I think Trinity of Sin we're distancing ourselves from.
Sure.
Even look at Rebirth, and like the DC Rebirth #1 or whatever special, big moment in it is Dr. Manhattan exploding Pandora, which is a real symbolic, like, this is the end of the New 52.
Oh, wow.
Because she was woven through all these stories. It was this big mystery that kind of like really didn't go anywhere satisfying, other than the fact that we got Forever Evil out of it, which is a legitimately good event. So I'd say odds on he's not Judas anymore. However, the caveat to that is I would also say odds on it still has something to do with Jesus. Like, the fact that one or two of his possible origins before the New 52 were Jesus related. Like, if he had 4 origins, I'd say at least 2 of them were Jesus related, plus the Judas one. So whether he's Judas or not, something about that is probably likely as part of the quote definitive origin of the Phantom Stranger nowadays. That's my take on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. With that,
It also makes more sense because he has a lot of religious stuff. He does like talk to God and stuff like that. It kind of doesn't make sense for him to be like, I was a scientist from the universe before this one. It's like, and then God picked you.
Yeah, that's weird.
You it was like, make it Jesus. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Though I do love that concept, but
I do too. But like,
not for that character.
not for that. I think.
I agree.
I think his powers don't line up
Totally.
with that.
All right, let's leave Instagram and head on over to Reddit.
Where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
First question comes from Adam Land, who asks, that kid who implied that he was God, have we ever seen him outside of Peter David's Supergirl?
So there's like a little kid, I think his name's Wally.
Yeah.
In that Peter David run, who sort of heavily insinuates that he is the presence.
Yeah.
That he's God. I had to look this up. I think I shouldn't say he shows up. An idea very similar to him shows up in a different book that was published by DC for a time by Peter David called Fallen Angels.
Oh, wow.
So I think Peter David had this
concept
of like God in the form of a child kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the same character. I think it's just the idea.
Sure.
That was the closest I could find to another DC comic that has essentially that in it. But yeah, I mean, Sometimes the president's just a disembodied voice. Sometimes it's a like Mr. Topham Hat looking guy.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a little Scotty dog. It's pretty wide open.
Yeah.
But that child version, basically it's in Supergirl, and then something like it is in this book called Fallen Angels.
Sure.
Yeah.
Next question from Armpit the Hero.
I mean, how dare you?
Who asks, has Spirit of Redemption made an appearance after Hal's time as Spectre?
So the idea of, like Hal, greatest Green Lantern, goes crazy after Coast City is destroyed, becomes Parallax, becomes a villain, essentially. Tries to undo time and the universe during 0 Hour. And then in Final Night, that book that we read where like the sun is going out and the heroes are like, fuck, what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
He begins his redemption arc. Parallax flies into the sun and discharges his energy to restart it. So Parallax saves the day. Hal saves the day in that, but he dies. His spirit then gets bonded to the Spectre. Something happens to Jim Corrigan, and there's a book called Day of Judgment, and somewhere in there, Hal becomes the new host for the Spectre. And then there's this great Spectre series that I love with Hal as the Spectre. And it's about, he
Does he
doesn't
have a ring too?
No, but he has like a mask.
Sure.
Like they take some of he has a sort of burning looking Green Lantern-y thing.
Sure.
And it's like they visually blend them.
Sure.
He's not technically a Green Lantern at this point. He's just a ghost. He's the Spectre, but because he's Hal,
Yeah.
We
There's
just-
vibes.
there's vibes. Yeah, exactly. So, but during that one, because he's on this redemption arc, he doesn't want to be vengeance.
Sure.
I actually think it's a really interesting idea. It's like he's trying to bend the will of the like Hal Jordan, the strongest will in the universe. Can he win against a piece of God?
Yeah.
Is kind of what that book is about.
Was this as a punishment because of the whole fucking city shit, or?
It's almost like an opportunity,
Sure, but it's a response because of that. Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
But in that series, there's an issue where like he's like, instead of punishing Harvey Dent, what if I could heal him? And he
Sure.
splits Two-Face off from him, and that. But then of course it goes haywire. Like Harvey can't take it, Two-Face can't. Like it's like they have to be a certain way. But there is this thing where like the Spectre is like, we're here to punish, and he's like, I'm not gonna fucking. It's not vengeance. I'm redemption. And it literally is, can Hal outwill God, essentially, which I think is like a deeply fascinating
Concept. Yeah.
concept. I think it makes that series great.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It's maybe not as explicit as it is there, but other Spectre books do tap into the, like, good Spectre books tap into the idea of, is all I am a tool for violence? Even Corrigan, who is probably he's the longest serving host of the Spectre, but also probably the most like, this is the job.
Yeah.
Like
It's a living.
like Corrigan's kind of on board.
Yeah.
Even he's kind of like, ugh, and then that reveal in Gotham by Midnight, he's like, I've been choosing these, is like a real fucked up little moment. But Crispus Allen doesn't like being vengeance, but he goes like, it's the job, and like, fuck it. Crispus Allen had to kill his own son.
Jesus.
Because he gets killed in Gotham Central. He's a cop. He's Renee's partner. He gets killed in Gotham Central. And then his son finds the killer and kills him. The killer is Jim Corrigan.
Wow.
Because it's all fucked up.
Of course.
And then when Crispus becomes the Spectre, he has to enact vengeance on his son. So he kills his son. It's like, and he's like, if I had to do fucking that, then I guess this is just what I am. So I think a good Spectre book does touch on the idea of, is vengeance a good enough cause?
Sure.
Can the Spectre be something different or more or whatever? But does it ever do redemption as explicitly as it does in the Hal one? Maybe not. That one is like, that's sort of like the point of that book.
Yeah.
You know? It's different. They also try to make a distinction. You know, Eclipso is sort of back to just being Eclipso. For a while, Eclipso was the spirit of God's wrath.
Oh, wow.
So if you think,
Vengeance and Wrath.
if vengeance is like New Testament,
Sure. Yeah.
then that's, I mean, that doesn't line up either, because then in Final Crisis Revelations, they go, the Spectre's the one that gave the mark to Cain.
Sure.
But for example, maybe Eclipso is the one that made the flood.
Yeah.
You know, like there's like, they do shit like that. For a while, they tried to position Eclipso that way, and that's who is whispering in the Spectre's ear during Day of Vengeance when he has no host, is Eclipso. You know? They play with this idea of different aspects of God also existing and manifesting in ways with hosts. The Radiant is the spirit of mercy, and like all these kind of things. So it's not like a crazy idea that like redemption is maybe just a different piece or something like that, but to play it in the Spectre, the best version is the Hal series, I would say.
Totally.
Yeah.
Next question from Ben5442, who asks, can you talk about the Batman Brave and the Bold episode Chill of the Night, where Phantom Stranger and the Spectre make a bet on if Batman will kill Joe Chill or not, ultimately ending in the Spectre killing Joe Chill by a pile of rubble?
Yeah, I mean, it's first of all a very good episode.
Yeah.
You know, like Batman the Brave and the Bold, if you haven't watched it, is like a great show. A very different tone to the Bruce Timm animated universe of
like
DC.
gothic-y.
It's like it's got a Silver Age vibe. It's like a little bit silly and like, hey chum, we're gonna like, it's playing off that kind of shit, but it is like, it's got some deep cut characters.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, it's got like a fucking gut punch emotional episode. I am not shitting you when I say Bwana Beast has like a deeply emotionally satisfying arc.
Wow.
On that show in a kind of crazy way. But there's this episode called Chill of the Night. If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's that Bruce finally figures out who killed his parents, learns it's Joe Chill, learns where he is and stuff like that. It has this climactic scene where he unmasks himself in front of Joe Chill. He's like, you made me. Like,
oh, wow.
And it's like, for a show that's normally like Aquaman shows up, it goes like outrageous.
Yeah.
This episode is like, holy shit. Like,
wow.
And yeah, the sort of the framing device of it is like watching is Phantom Stranger and Spectre. And it's like, well, the Spectre's like, he's going to kill him. Phantom Stranger's like, I wouldn't be so sure. I'm the spirit of God's coyness. And it's like, I don't know. Do you think you will?
Sounds like God's a fucking tease.
Yeah. So it's that thing of like, you know, how good is Batman? How much does he stick to his code? And of course he doesn't kill Joe Chill, but the Spectre sure fucking does.
Wow.
And kill him.
Sure.
It's a kid's cartoon. He like deals with him, you know, like it's that sort of thing. But I like it. It's interesting. And I do like a little bit the dynamic between Spectre and Phantom Stranger. I think it's a good dynamic when they kind of don't like each other. Where they don't agree. The Spectre is, because he's just a part of God and a very specific part of God, he's pretty myopic. That's kind of why he needs a human host.
Yeah.
He needs a human host for fucking perspective, because otherwise he's like, you stole a candy bar, fucking
yeah, sure.
dead. You know, like,
yeah.
He would hate your challenge month.
Sure.
You know, Spectre does not approve. The Phantom Stranger is like, even bad people have he's got that kind of Gandalf, like, even the wise cannot see all ends.
Sure.
You know, like, that's the Phantom Stranger's deal.
Yeah.
And so they inherently don't get along, trust each other, whatever. They play with that in the New 52, where the Phantom Stranger is sort of guided on a quest and he sort of accidentally causes the death of Jim Corrigan. And then that makes him the Spectre. And the Phantom Stranger's like, fuck! Why would you make me do this? And the Spectre's like, I fucking hate you. You killed me. And he's like, but it was part of the plan. And like, I like that. the episode doesn't touch a ton on that, but putting those two characters against each other in that way speaks to that relatively well, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Go Speed Racer Go, who asks, is Spectre and Phantom Stranger on the same level as Sandman in power?
Okay. So earlier when I said I like to think that the Abrahamic God
Sure.
is just a very powerful member of a pantheon of gods in our universe.
The Justice League of God. Yeah.
You know, canonically, that's not specifically what is said,
Sure.
but that's kind of what I prefer to read.
Yeah.
The place where it sort of like kind of gets tricky is in Sandman.
Okay.
'Cause in Sandman, they more or less go like, oh, God and heaven and hell are like it. And all the other gods come from people's belief. They actually spawn in Dream, I believe, according to Sandman. So in the dream realm,
Okay.
the Olympians, the Egyptian gods,
Oh, wow.
they spawn there.
Crazy.
Rao, Kryptonian gods, Hronmir, like
So is that
The-
DC saying that
it's
all gods are like an imagination?
it's
Like,
implied in Sandman that heaven, hell, and God, and therefore beings that get their power from them, objectively exist. And the other ones exist because of belief.
okay.
Or rather, belief spawned them, and whether or not people believe in them now, they do exist. So they're all real, but they do kind of make a class distinction a little bit.
Interesting.
I don't really like that.
Yeah.
I again, because I don't really like putting God at the top of the pyramid. I am fine with
Pyramid is God. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the sphere of the gods, like in the map of the multiverse, heaven and hell are their own domains.
Sure.
Whereas Skyland and Underworld, those are the heavens and hells of all other
Sure.
pantheons. And again, when we talk about these things, it's not that they all exist in one room. Zeus doesn't have to like rub shoulders with Thor,
Yeah.
but it's that as a domain in the sphere of the gods, it's like heaven and hell, and then the rest.
Sure.
You know, like and then New Genesis and Apocalypse. So the new gods, boom, they're the fourth world. They are new gods.
Yeah.
Heaven and hell, and then the others.
Sure.
And then Dream and Nightmare.
Yeah.
That's the sphere of the gods. So it's, I don't love it,
Yeah.
but canonically, specifically, with regard to this question,
Sure.
what that kind of implies is that Dream A is, as a concept and as a being, way more powerful than something like a Zeus,
Wow.
right? But we know Dream interacts with Lucifer, and there's an actual threat. Like, that's a danger, especially when Dream doesn't have all his power, right? When he's collecting those items. So we know that he's not omnipotent, right? So really the question becomes, how much of God's power does the Spectre have or Phantom Stranger have? And my feeling on it is that Sandman is more powerful than the Phantom Stranger, and that Sandman
Wow.
is more powerful than the Spectre.
That's wild.
You know, and by the same kind of logic that he beats Lucifer, you know, like when he has that kind of battle of wits or whatever, Lucifer's like, I will fucking kill you, you know, Dream, you have no power here in hell. And he's like, I have all the power in hell, because what's hell if people can't dream of getting out?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And he kind of goes like, checkmate, bitch, and sort of like fucking, you know, like, so by the logic of the book itself, I think Dream would have to beat or be more powerful than both the Spectre and Phantom Stranger, but not more powerful than the Presence.
Crazy.
Again, I don't know that I necessarily like that reading, but I think that is definitively what that book says.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Next question means we're leaving Reddit and heading over to the Discord.
Fuck.
Come on, just a song. You've known it since the beginning of this episode.
Come and dox your score. Doo-ba-doo-doo-ba-doo-doo. Come and dox your score. Yeah.
Watching Guardians of the Galaxy?
No, but I saw it on the
Oh,
shelf.
nice. All right, first question comes from It Shall Not Pass.
Hell yeah.
I do like somebody on the Discord said that they were like, whenever I watch it now, I can't not hear him constipated.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Fool of a poop.
Yeah. Poop of a toque.
Throw yourself in next time and rid us of your stupidity.
Yeah. Fool of a poop. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
This poo is beyond any of you. Run!
That's you before you
There
go
are
back.
fouler things in the deep places of the
Whoa.
world.
That's good. That's you before you're going into the bathroom at work.
That's what I say to my family.
Yeah. Run!
Or when I finish in there and someone has to go in and go, there are foul things in the deep places
Yeah.
of the world.
It's beyond you.
Yeah. There are lots of powers, for good and ill, against some of which I have not yet been tested.
Does that mean that you and poop were created at the same time?
Locked
You're
in
part
an
of the
eternal
same-
struggle.
You're part of the same beings.
Yeah.
I've learned. Fuck TikTok.
That's good.
I hate this.
He knows about the fucking Ainur, baby.
I nor want to know about this.
Yeah, he knows so many words. I bet you know what an Istar is. Fuck yeah.
I keep wanting to do an Ishmael thing, but call me Ishtar.
Or Ishtar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First question from Constipated Gandalf, which asks, what is the relation between the presence and the God wave?
Right.
What's a God wave?
So, we talk about the new gods, we talk about the fourth world.
Yeah.
When we talk about the old gods, like Zeus and shit like that,
Sure.
that's the third world.
Okay.
The God wave creates the third world.
Okay.
So, what is the first world? The first world are the first gods, and it's essentially meant to be a kind of like Asgard. They're almost like the Aesir in Norse mythology. There's one called Olgrun, and their planet is called Urgrund.
Sure.
And that's the first world. The distinction between the first and second world is pretty hazy, but essentially at some point along the way, the inhabitants of Urgrund also start ascending to godhood. That's the second world. And then they go to war with themselves, and the battle destroys the planet, rips their beings apart, and that releases this energy called the God Wave. And the God Wave rips through the multiverse and starts spawning gods. Kryptonian gods, Martian gods,
Oh, that's dope.
Olympians, whatever. There's actually a thing where the wave it goes out and then bounces back again, and the lesser later ripples of the wave spawn superhumans.
Whoa.
More or less, the God wave starts the third world, and then from the kind of ashes of Urgrund, what coalesces into New Genesis and Apocalypse is the fourth world.
Sure.
That's what they are, the new gods. They come after the God wave, right? That's, in a very vague sense, first world, second world, third world, fourth world. So, in the question, it's the relationship between what and the God wave?
The presence.
The presence. So, if the presence, in whole or in part, is the source, well, let's do it one of two ways. I think the way definitively, canonically it exists, where the presence is part of the source, where like God is the source, that means that God precedes even the first world.
Okay.
God must be the source,
Yeah.
right? So that means it's beyond Olgren, beyond the first world. In the way I prefer to read it, where capital G God is just an extremely powerful universal concept, and then the idea of the source is kind of like separate, then God would have to be part of the third world. God, our God with a capital G, would be created by the God wave.
Oh,
I think canonically that's not true.
sure.
Like, you could find a comic that's like God exists before this.
Yeah.
But I think the way I prefer to read the presence would imply that he's part of the third world. So, again, definitively in the comics, because they're like, nope, God's on top. You gotta go like, well, fuck, you know. But that's not as interesting to me because I mean, and I mentioned this Bible scholar that I follow on TikTok because he, you know, contends that if you really read the Bible in a scholarly sense and you examine the language and the way it's written, God isn't even the only God in the Bible.
Sure.
He's the God of the Israelites. That the B'nai Elohim, he's one of the B'nai Elohim, which means there's one above him.
Wow.
You know, like there's like, and I'm interested in that.
Yeah, that's
that idea of like, you know, we have patron gods because that is the way that most belief works.
Yes.
Monotheism is fucking weird.
Yeah.
And the reason is because it shouldn't be. Like, it shouldn't be monotheism. So this is just the God of Israel. But there was a God of, you know, next door. And a God of those people over on that hill.
Sure.
And then there was, you know, and the more I really have responded to this kind of scholarly reading of the Bible, and it's affected how I read comics.
Sure.
And so now for me, I put God and Zeus in the same category, but even in DC, you go like, God would wipe the fucking floor with Zeus.
Of course.
And chalk that up to how many people believe, or chalk that up to whatever. It doesn't really matter. Is he just more powerful? Is it because more people believe in him? It kind of doesn't matter. You just go, he's more powerful.
Sure.
Fine. You know, and you just sort of leave it. But I prefer that idea. And even if he's so powerful that he recognizes that he has counterparts in other universes, that he has counterparts in higher dimensions, that he has a counterpart beyond, you know, in the overvoid. You could be powerful enough to, like, I'm okay with the stomach cell knowing it's a stomach cell.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting thing. And in that sense, he can say stuff like, I am the source. And you go like, that's true.
Yeah.
But he
You know,
doesn't
all
have
of
to
it,
be all of it.
Yeah.
And I prefer that for me now, like just because of these other influences that are now affecting how I read shit. That's more interesting to me.
Yeah.
So in that version, God is in the third world. That's the relationship. He's from the God wave.
Wow.
But again, if you go read a comic, that's not what's in there.
Yeah,
but that's
yeah.
my
Interpretation.
headcanon that I'm kind of rolling with that I like better.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Next question comes from Only Just Dandon, who asks, just how powerful is Zoriel?
So Zoriel is an angel. And Zoriel is a character that is created. We've talked about this before. There's that era where they're like, we just can't use fucking Hawkman.
Yes.
And then Morrison or someone in that era was like, but I want a wing guy.
Yes.
And so we make Zoriel. And Zoriel's story, at least initially, is very City of Angels.
Of course.
He's a guardian angel. He falls in love with the person he's supposed to be protecting. You know, it's and he is granted mortality. So for a while, as much as he has divine power and stuff like that, he was A, mortal.
Wow.
And B, you know, he's manifesting on Earth. He's less powerful. He's not even like the big angel. He had there's the 4 hosts of angels in that thing. The bull host and the eagle host and the whatever. He's not even the king angel of his host.
Oh, wow.
So Zoriel is not, he's not Michael. He's not
Well,
like,
sure,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like he's an angel. I would make, to make the supernatural connection, I'd make the argument he's not even a Castiel.
Oh, really?
Because we sort of imply that for as much as he was just sort of a mindless soldier, Cass is a relatively powerful angel.
Totally.
There are a couple above him, but really, he's up there in supernatural.
He's almost an archangel.
He's close.
Yeah,
There's the
yeah.
archangels, and then you've got your like Uriel, Zachariah,
Uh-huh.
like that kind of, and then basically Cass.
Yeah.
Like he's up there.
Your generals.
I'd
yeah.
make the argument that Zoriel is a couple below
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Zoriel's a funny character. Like I love the idea of like an actual angel of heaven is on the Justice League.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like a fucking cool idea.
I like that too.
Like that's dope as hell. And again, playing with the idea of like there are things to be learned and appreciated about the mortal world. That's a thing we like in Supernatural for Cass. It's a thing I like about the idea of Zoriel.
Mm-hmm.
But like it would be a mistake to be like, holy shit, Zoriel's here. You're gonna get fucked up. You kind of go like,
Sure.
no, it's like Zoriel's here.
Yeah. It's kind of like Hawkman's here. Yeah.
Zoriel has like smited the Phantom Stranger once, but that's more because the Phantom Stranger went to heaven when he wasn't supposed to.
Sure.
So Zoriel is sort of acting with the power of like prophecy and shit behind him.
Sure.
It's not that Zoriel can kick the Phantom Stranger's ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's that kind of thing. Yeah. Powerful and interesting but like even by superhero standards, Zoriel's not like Superman could beat the shit out of Zoriel. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, that's why I think it's a good like analogous for Hawkman. Like,
but I kind of like it. You
Yeah.
know, like I that's not me shitting on Zoriel, but it's like he's not like
a god level.
you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Next question from Butt Fart Butt, who asks, yeah, Liam Sharp having to do Butt Fart Butt. Very funny.
Great episode.
Is it true that God is Jack Kirby?
Oh fuck! Right. What is that from? Shit. I'm forgetting what this reference is, but it's some comic or a cartoon or something where they basically make God either look like Kirby or like it's supposed to be like an homage, like a nod kind of thing. I can't remember what the fuck it is, but they basically made God Kirby once.
Was this also in Peter David's Supergirl run?
Fuck, it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. When is that? God, I'm actually gonna God Jack Kirby. Oh no. Now I'm just getting like images. God by Jack Kirby. Oh no, like Jack Kirby drew God. Not like this. That was no. It's way later than that. I think it's.
This is a 70s thing. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
that, but then I'm also. Is this in the Green Lantern 12? And this is in 2022, so that's the Thorn Green Lantern, I think. Yeah, Kirby is kind of like God.
This is Isaiah. Isaiah. This is Isaiah the High Father.
Yeah.
Which
but they're doing it in the way where it's like Kirby created the New Gods and the idea of the source and stuff like that. And this thing that we keep talking about, what is the relationship between God and the source? I think essentially what that Green Lantern book did was make the source manifest into the shape of Jack Kirby.
Sure.
And it's in a Green Lantern book. I think it's during the Thorn run on Green Lantern, if that timing sounds right. Green Lantern 12. But yeah, it's that the source manifests as in the shape of Kirby. But I think you're right. I think Marvel has done it before where they, as a nod kind of thing. I'm sure DC did it like earlier too, but the one I was thinking of is this more recent one.
Wow.
But I mean, I would, to answer the question, I would say no, because it's not like DC across the board goes, whenever we show God, it's Jack Kirby.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
They don't do that.
Yeah.
But has God appeared as Jack Kirby? Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And the last question from Cosmic DM Crunchy,
Nice.
who asks,
I like that one better than Cosmic DM Smooth.
yeah? I like Cosmic DM Bumpy.
Oh no.
yeah,
Oh,
written
I
by
see.
Robbie
Yeah,
Thompson.
hell yeah, fuck yeah. Listen to Ghostfacers.
Is the writer God, or are they above him?
Oh, an exceedingly tricky question.
Yeah.
You know, there's these meta layers to so many things in the cosmic level of things. Like if you read Multiversity and we talk about the gentry, the sort of chaos nightmare creatures that were consuming Multiverse 2, those are almost meant to be manifestations of like shitty internet comment culture.
Oh, wow.
So in a way, they're from real life, you know? If you talk about the idea of creation and stories, like what was the chronicler coming to look at during death metal? Then you go, are the hands of the Omniverse, are they like the creators? Are they writers and stuff like that? Maybe. Is the source? Maybe. But then also you go like, you go all the way down into the multiverse, and our world is in the multiverse.
Yeah.
So like on our Earth, the writers of DC Comics, like in DC, the writers of DC exist on Earth 33.
Fuck.
You could open, theoretically, any month, there could be an issue of Superman where Superman opens a thing or gets a window into Earth 33 and you can just watch Tom King write Wonder Woman.
Sure.
Because Earth 33, our world, is in the DC multiverse. And we've determined that it has a sort of reverberating impact on the worlds of the multiverse. And also that Earth Zero, the main universe, like the primary continuity of DC, is a metaverse. And when changes are made there, it affects the other worlds of the multiverse. So you go, so the call is coming from inside the house, but also it's coming from outside the house.
What the fuck?
I mean, ultimately, the answer is like, yes, whatever you want, wherever you want to put them. But the more complicated answer is that over time, the different ideas of where the writer lives in the cosmology of DC has moved. It's not one answer.
Sure.
There's the bigger picture version of like, I'd make the argument that like the source, that idea is like, that's almost like the idea of creativity and storytelling.
Yeah.
The actual writers maybe live in Earth 33.
Sure.
You know, and like the rest of the multiverse, they get sort of the waves of energy from the source, the creativity, and they end up accidentally writing the stories of fictional worlds and stuff like that. You know, again, that's just me trying to rationalize it, but like, where does the writer from Animal Man, you know, when Animal Man meets Grant Morrison, where does that writer live in the DC cosmology? Mm-hmm. He is not the source. And he joins the fucking Suicide Squad and shit like that.
Wow.
I'd make the argument he's from, if not Earth 33, a world very much like it. You know, does he come from beyond the multiverse? I'd say no. But he's definitively the writer of Animal Man.
Wild.
So, the idea of the meta positioning of the creators in the multiverse has changed over time and moved in like in
because
range.
Theoretically, like, yeah, in our world there is concepts of a god, therefore we have a presence, therefore that should be the same presence of them,
and that fits with putting us in the orrery of worlds.
Yeah.
That the sphere of the gods is above us.
Yeah. So theoretically,
technically, our world just has very constricting laws of physics. That's why we don't have superheroes or whatever. But
That's like saying to our dogs we're God. When it's like, well, no, I mean, to them, I guess we're the closest that they're going to get, but there technically is a God above us.
I mean, the only way to really think about it is the higher up you go dimensionally,
yeah.
the more the thing has to operate like a concept and less like a thing.
Sure.
So the sphere of the gods is above the world. You know, the multiverse is one thing. That's like physical realms. I'm a writer here, and I got imprints of your world, and I'm writing it. Fine.
Yeah.
One step up, you know, sphere of the gods, you go like, now we're starting to talk about the idea of like dreams, nightmares, heaven, hell, good, evil, stuff like that. Sphere up, the monitor sphere. It's like they're technically things, but like we're getting real conceptual. The overvoid. By the time you get to the overvoid and like beyond the multiverse, I think it's a mistake to be like, it's a guy with a beard who is God.
Sure. Yeah.
That is like, now we're just going, it's just the idea of creation.
Yes.
So in that sense, metafictionally, writers exist in the orrery of worlds, and the idea of creativity exists outside the multiverse.
Sure.
And then it's the connection between those things that creates all of it.
Fucking wild.
Yeah.
Glad we ended there.
Yeah. An easy thing to go to bed after.
It's just
I don't feel fucking small at all.
Yeah, no.
I'm not going to talk about this in therapy. I think I cracked it. I figured it out.
Speaking of, why don't you talk about our Patreon?
Yeah, patreon.com/DrDC. There's a $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to our awesome Discord fan community. And right now, at the higher levels, there's bonus episodes, and it's fucking challenge month, baby.
Of course it is. It came after
It
Eatgist.
came after Eatgist. We just had a not embarrassing at all basketball challenge.
No, watch the video on our Patreon.
So that's up there. We have to write sincere parody songs
Fucking
this month.
Man,
I'm in therapy on a dare, essentially.
I'm doing actual crimes. I have to commit so many crimes.
It's 15.
More crimes than I probably can. Nah, that's not true.
But yeah, I listen to Challenge Month, and the Patreon helps to support us. So head on over there.
Oh my god, I hope my therapist doesn't listen to this.
Oh, I want them to. They'd be like, normally this is confidential, but I have a duty to report. You're a danger to yourself. And
oh my god,
others.
did you just send me a photo of Reed's shit?
Oh, I don't even know what crime this is.
No, he has a duty to report.
Oh, I see. Oh. That's good.
Thank you. If you want to ask a question for an episode, you can do so through our various social media platforms.
That's right. We're Dr. DC Podcast, wherever you find us.
And if you like what we do here, you might like, if you like shit about religion and supernatural shit.
Oh, yeah. Boy, do we have a podcast for you,
buddy.
baby.
Exactly for you.
Ghostfacer's a supernatural rewatch.
I bet we talked so much about that in that episode. Supernatural on the original fucking Higher Power episode.
Yeah, we might have, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I won't go back and find out, but I'm sure we did.
Yuck. No, those don't even exist.
Ghostfacer's a supernatural rewatch. We're going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural. We're in season 10 right now. We just got to the 200th episode of Supernatural, a very, very fun anniversary episode with a cool special guest. But we talk about real world monster lore, behind the scenes stuff about the show. It's a great time. Go check it out.
That is it for this week.
Adios.
Ciao, ciao.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.